Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. So earlier today, Jenica and I were at Walmart. We had just purchased a tablet because it was that time. Our son had used and abused his tablet, and it was starting to get lines on the screen, and so it was time for a new tablet. So we made our purchase, and then we were walking out, and this caught my eye. Of course it did, right? Because my channel is all about Jesus Christ and his second coming. And I saw that this was a special edition and it actually looked kind of good. I like the aesthetic of the cover. I think it all looks very nice. I actually like that painting. So I decided to investigate a little bit further. I don't know, I guess the spirit prompted me to do so. And I'm glad that I did. At first I was curious to see, okay, so obviously it looks good on the surface, but what does it say in this issue? And the entire issue, the whole thing, was about Jesus Christ. Every single article. And I found pretty much what I expected. Basically, kind of like what seemed like a secular point of view, like, oh, who wrote the Gospels, and who was Jesus Christ really? Was he actually the savior of the world, or was he just a Jewish, influencer, a Jewish influencer who, taught many good things, but everyone afterwards just turned it into this huge religion, and it was never meant to become that, or it was like along those lines, right? There was one part where it seemed to be talking about the book of Revelation, from what I could tell. And it was trying to make the case that no, actually the book, it's about the immediate aftermath of Christ and his crucifixion, and how the Jewish nation, things would work out for them. And I don't know, I can't even remember exactly what it said, but that's not the point of this video. So I kept flipping through and I got to the back, and I was really interested in the fact that they mentioned our church. So this whole issue ended with going through the main branches of Christianity. And they only listed, let's see, they started off with the section about the Catholic Church, and then the Eastern Orthodox branches, and then Protestants, and then Anglicans. And then the last one, the fifth one, was this. They had a section titled Mormonism, which of course, and I'm sure that the person that wrote, well, I don't know, I'm not going to make the assumption, but of course, this is what they typically do, whether it's the Salt Lake Tribune or other, newspapers, magazines, news outlets. They typically just shorten everything to Mormon or Mormonism. Whether they do it on purpose or not, I don't know. In the case of the Salt Lake Tribune, they definitely know that we don't want to be called Mormons. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I'll give these people a pass. I don't know who wrote this, but it already starts off not so great. But let me just show you what it said. Okay, the origins of Mormonism crisscross millennia and continents, while its teachings weave together the concepts of Christianity and the revelations of its founder, Joseph Smith. Although no documentation exists, so of course they're taking that angle. Although no documentation exists, there's still people that believe although no documentation exists to pinpoint the Garden of Eden's exact location, church tradition holds that it's in Jackson County, Missouri, on the Kansas border. I thought that was really interesting. This is all that they wrote about the church. Just these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs, and they chose to include our belief that the Garden of Eden is in Jackson County instead of some of the more core teachings of the church. But okay, so they decided to, hone in on this, maybe to make the church look crazy. I don't know, because that is a pretty outside the box idea or doctrine. When you compare what we believe to mainstream Christianity. But anyway, after Adam and Eve were expelled, they relocated northwest to Daviess County, Missouri. And then this is where this part, well, that's where this issue kind of took a turn for the worse for me, because there's a couple really big mistakes here. And the point isn't necessarily to point out all the flaws in this article. I just want to highlight this, though, because there are many people that will read a news article and just take it for face value. They'll just trust whoever it is that's writing the article, that they did their research, they know what they're talking about, it's a reputable magazine, news website, whatever. And, especially since I've started doing this channel and I've come across so many articles from so many different sources, I've become more critical about what I accept as true, because there's so many times that I find mistakes in articles, whether it's misspellings or they're just getting facts wrong, or even worse than that, they just copy from other sources. I've noticed, for example, that there are members of the church that have blogs or websites, and they'll do the same thing that I do. They'll collect, for example, stories of visions and visitations, and when they put the reference at the bottom, it's apparent that everybody is just copying and pasting it from some first source, but they don't actually do the work to find the actual source, because I'm kind of a prickler when it comes to that. I want to make sure that I can get to the primary source if possible, and it really bothers me if I can't. And so whenever I come across these blogs, I'll see their source, and then I'll be like, okay, let me look it up and see if I can actually find it on the internet. And then sometimes you can't find anything, but then you find the actual primary source. And so anyway, we really need to be rigorous when it comes to our study and not just take everything at face value. So right here, I just want to point out that the person that wrote this said that after Adam and Eve were expelled, they relocated northwest to Daviess County. Daviess County is not spelled like that. It is spelled with 2 S's at the end. I had a friend one time tell me that it's supposed to be pronounced Daviess County because that just made sense to him. I later found out, no, it is pronounced Daviess County, but it does have 2 S's at the end. But furthermore, when you look at the map, the article said that Adam and Eve went northwest, and no, they didn't. Adam-ondi-Ahman is northeast of the Kansas City area. So right here, I have a place marker that says New Jerusalem. This is Independence, Missouri, Jackson County. And if you go northeast, that's where Adam and Eve went, to Adam-ondi-Ahman. So not looking so good for the article as far as maybe the quality of research. But anyway, continuing, Mormons trace their beginnings to around 600 BCE, when an Israelite named Lehi traveled with his family from the Middle East to the Americas. No, we don't, actually. That's not where the church started. According to us, it all started with Adam and Eve, who you were just talking about. And after Adam and Eve, I think you have to look at the concept of dispensations. So I have a spreadsheet called Quotes, Numbers, and I have scriptures and quotes that have to do with certain numbers and the meaning of numbers from a gospel perspective. And one thing that I have on here is that there's 7 main dispensations. Okay. So first we have Adam and Eve. The next big one would be Enoch. The next one would be Noah. After that, Abraham. After that, Moses. After that, the dispensation of the meridian of time, or Christ's dispensation, where he came to earth himself. And then, of course, the church fell into apostasy after that. And then we arrive at the 7th dispensation, which is the last dispensation, the dispensation of the fullness of times. And this is when the church was restored. So it would be better if the article had cited, this is where we trace our origins to. I wouldn't have a problem with that, because that's the beginning of this dispensation. It's the beginning of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But the church itself goes all the way back to Adam and Eve, of course. So I feel like that's a little bit sloppy, saying that the church traces its beginnings to Lehi. No. One of Lehi's descendants, the prophet Mormon, transcribed his people's story onto gold plates, and in 385 CE, gave them to his son. The son buried the plates in Manchester, New York, where they were discovered by farmer Joseph Smith in the 1820s. It was Smith who, as a teen, had a vision of Jesus and God the Father. Let's not forget that, who published the plates as the Book of Mormon in 1830 and set about to spread the word of Jesus' atonement and resurrection. New religions were flourishing in the U.S. at the time. Unitarianism, Adventism, spiritualism, and the New Thought movement were all founded within decades of one another. And Mormonism, too, rapidly gained converts. So again, portraying the church as though, this is just a result of the time in which you find the beginnings of the church. You had all these different movements that started up, and so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is no different, right? Hoping to continue the growth, Smith headed west, and he established Mormon communities in Ohio, Missouri, and Illinois. Yet the Easterner was a controversial figure no matter where he went, largely for the unorthodox practices he preached, such as polygamy, and he was often the target of violence. In 1832, Smith was tarred and feathered in Ohio by a mob resentful of Mormon influence. The following year, vigilantes destroyed the printing press on which a sacred Mormon text was being printed. I think that's referring to Doctrine and Covenants. Mormons were forced from towns where they were living. And in 1844, Smith, while in jail in Illinois awaiting charges of treason, which I'll just point out that anybody that's not familiar with the church, they read this article, they're not going to hear both sides of the story. They're just going to be like, oh yeah, of course. He was into a lot of weird stuff, so it makes sense that he was being charged with treason. Was shot and killed alongside his brother. After Smith died, the church divided. Many Mormons followed Brigham Young, who organized the initial migration of about 16,000 Mormons from Illinois to Utah, where he founded Salt Lake City. He became the first governor of the Utah Territory. Today, Mormons primarily belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so at least we got the full name of the church in here somewhere, headquartered in Salt Lake City. Another Mormon denomination, the Community of Christ, is centered in Independence, Missouri. Both denominations embrace the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and the Doctrine and Covenants. The LDS also uses the Pearl of Great Price. And then it puts a little quote-unquote fact, well, they don't actually call it a fact here, but they're presenting it as a fact. Membership, 16 million. No, it's not 16 million. If you go to the church website, they have this portion called Facts and Statistics. And the first thing that you see is that the church is at 17.2 million. So it's wrong information. There's a lot of wrong information in this article, and a lot that portrays the church in a negative light, both Joseph Smith and the church. And it doesn't get our point of view very well when it comes to how we believe we started or where we trace our roots back to. It's not good. Now, I'll give the author a pass. I don't know if they were intentionally doing this. Maybe they're just really under the influence of secularism, which is typically hostile toward Christianity in general. And so to the person writing this, they're probably just like, I have to do this piece about this obscure, to me, this obscure church. And so you just kind of hurry and put together a quick thing about the church. So I don't know, but it's unfortunate because there's just a lot here that's wrong. And frankly, it's a little bit sloppy. So especially this, I don't know where they would have gotten this. If you go to Wikipedia, it'll say 17 million. So I don't know where the person got this number. And then to finish it off, it says, who knew a for-profit arm of the Mormon Church, Deseret Management Corporation, owns Ag Reserves Incorporated, known for its nuts and olive oil. More like, who cares? Of course, there's people that are hostile toward the church, where all they need to see is for profit. And then, all of a sudden the church is evil and it's all about money and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, look how lavishly President Nelson is living in his multi-million-dollar mansion and all the leadership of the church. for profit. Huh. So anyway, but what's interesting is that this is how the issue ends. There's nothing else after this. This is the last like article, and it ends talking about our church. So as they say, any type of publicity is good publicity, or something like that. So there's a lot that's wrong here, a lot that kind of like casts it in a negative light, but at least it's bringing more awareness to those that read it, right? Again, they only mention 5 branches. There are many, many, many branches. Of course, you can clump them together, Protestants and Catholic, Eastern Orthodox branches. You can clump them together like that. But still, it's just, it really fascinates me, especially in a year like this, that you'd have this article come out and then the church would be the last thing mentioned. You know, it's like you save the best for last. You know, President Nelson for General Conference, he's the last one to speak. You know, I kind of think of it in those terms. So, I don't know. I like it. I hate it. I'm glad that I found it. I think that it's interesting. But that's all that I have for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.